My sister asked me to leave the room so she could talk to my husband. I came back to them on my couch. My sister Lisa lost her husband Jimmy 2 years ago in a motorcycle accident. A year ago, she reached out and told us she was having a hard time adjusting to life without him and needed help. I found her a good therapist, and she slowly started getting her life back on track. My husband Rick felt bad for her and started spending more time with her to help her through it. At first, I was completely fine with this because she was finally becoming like my sister again. She started smiling. She started laughing. I was so happy for her, and so was Rick. But over the past 6 months, they started spending more and more time alone together. I got a little jealous and told my husband I would like it if we could spend more time together because I was feeling neglected. He said okay, but nothing changed. Today, my sister came to my house crying because she had a dream about Jimmy. Rick and I sat her down in the living room to comfort her. I was already a little annoyed because the second I let her in the door, she ran straight into my husband's arms instead of mine. We all sat down, and Rick asked her what happened in the dream. She looked at me and actually asked me to leave the room because she didn't feel comfortable telling me. I was so hurt, I immediately got up and left. I sat in the other room tearing up for about 10 minutes when I heard a loud sound from the living room. I got up to check what happened, and I could not believe what I saw. They were having sex. On my couch. In my home. I ran out of the room because I thought I was going to vomit and locked myself in my bedroom. Rick walked in an hour later still shirtless and wouldn't even look at me. He mumbled something and sat on the edge of the bed. I was so angry that he couldn't even face me that I almost walked out right there. I asked him what the hell was going on between him and my sister. He sat there for minutes without saying anything while I cried my eyes out. I finally yelled at him to answer me. He whispered that he loved her. I lost it. I started screaming, how could he do this to me? Do these past 10 years mean nothing to him? I literally dropped to my knees and asked how could he betray me with my own sister and then tell me he loves her. He was quiet the entire time until I stopped. Then he said he had been regretting not experimenting with other women before we got married, and that he shouldn't have married the first girl he was ever with. I was stunned. I asked if he ever even loved me. He said yes, but that after spending time with Lisa, he realized she is who he wants to be with. I had no words. My entire life was falling apart in front of my eyes. I told him I might be pregnant. He said he would think about supporting me. Then he said he was leaving me to be with my sister. He apologized and told me I deserve better than him, and that if I agree to divorce him, he will give me everything. He just wants out of our marriage. In that moment, I felt like I hated him more than I have ever hated anyone. I screamed at him to get out and that he ruined my life, and I hope he's happy. Then he had the audacity to try to hug me. I pushed him off and someone knocked on the bedroom door. He told me he still loved me and that we would figure everything out, and then he left. I decided to call my parents and tell them what happened. My mom was quiet for a long time and then dropped a bombshell on me. She said Lisa had already told her weeks ago that she had feelings for Rick and wanted to be with him. My own mother knew and said nothing. I asked her why she didn't warn me, and she said she didn't want to start drama between her daughters. I hung up on her. Then I got a text from Lisa. She said she was sorry, but that she and Rick were meant to be, and that I would understand one day. She also said Mom had given them her blessing. I sat there staring at my phone, realizing that my husband, my sister, and my own mother had all betrayed me. But what none of them know is that this morning I got the results back from the doctor. And what those results say is going to change everything for all of them. I pulled the medical papers from my purse where I shoved them this morning before everything fell apart. The words swim in front of my eyes because I'm crying so hard I can barely see. Negative. Not pregnant. The one thing I thought might give me some power in this nightmare doesn't even exist. I crumple the paper in my fist and throw it across the bedroom. It bounces off the wall and lands on the floor next to Rick's dirty socks that he left there this morning like this was just another normal day. Part of me feels relief though, because at least I won't be tied to him forever through a child. At least I won't have to see his face at soccer games and school events for the next 18 years. At least any kid I might have someday won't have a father who chose my sister over their mother. I grab my phone with shaking hands and scroll through my contacts until I find her name. Maddie picks up on the second ring, and I can barely get the words out before I'm sobbing again. I tell her everything. About Lisa asking me to leave the room. About finding them on my couch. About Rick saying he loves her. About my mom knowing for weeks and saying nothing. Maddie starts cursing so loud I have to pull the phone away from my ear. She tells me she's getting in her car right now and she'll be there in 2 hours. I hear her keys jingling in the background and a door slamming. She's already looking up divorce lawyers on her phone while she's talking to me. She rattles off 3 names and says her cousin used one of them last year and got everything in the settlement. I'm still crying, but hearing her voice makes me feel like maybe I can survive this. Maybe I'm not completely alone, even though my husband and sister and mother all betrayed me. Maddie shows up at my house right as the sun is setting. I'm still locked in the bedroom where I've been since Rick left hours ago. I haven't moved from this spot on the floor next to the bed. My legs are numb and my face hurts from crying. She doesn't bother knocking. She just opens the door and sits down next to me on the carpet. She doesn't say anything at first. She just puts her arm around me and lets me cry into her shoulder. After a while, she stands up and starts pulling clothes out of my dresser. She throws them into the suitcase she brought from her car. She grabs my toothbrush from the bathroom and my phone charger from the nightstand. She tells me I'm not spending another night in this house where my husband had sex with my sister on my own couch. I don't argue with her. I just let her pack my stuff and help me stand up. My legs feel weak when I try to walk. We leave through the back door because I can't stand to walk past that couch in the living room. The drive to Maddie's apartment takes forever. She lives 2 hours away in the city, and the whole time I just stare out the window watching the streetlights blur past. She tries to talk to me a few times, but I can't really respond. My brain feels foggy, like I'm watching everything happen to someone else. We stop at a gas station halfway there, and she buys me a bottle of water and some crackers because I haven't eaten anything since breakfast. I can't even remember what I ate this morning. Everything before walking in on them feels like it happened in a different lifetime. When we finally get to her place, she makes up her couch for me with blankets and pillows. She tells me I can stay as long as I need to. She tells me we're going to get through this together. I believe her because I have to believe someone right now. The next morning, I wake up on Maddie's couch, and for about 3 seconds, I forget what happened. Then it all comes crashing back, and I feel like I'm going to throw up. Maddie is already awake, making coffee in her tiny kitchen. She slides my phone across the coffee table toward me and tells me I should probably look at it. I pick it up, and my stomach drops. 23 missed calls from Rick. 15 missed calls from Lisa. 8 missed calls from my mother. There are dozens of text messages too, but I can't bring myself to read them. I can see the previews though. Rick saying we need to talk. Lisa saying she's sorry. My mom saying I'm overreacting. I feel rage building in my chest like nothing I've ever felt before. Maddie watches me scroll through all the notifications, and then she takes the phone from my hands. She shows me how to block all 3 of their numbers. I watch their names disappear from my contact list one by one. It feels good to erase them like that, even though I know it doesn't actually solve anything. 3 days later, I'm sitting in a law office downtown meeting with Cameron Braun. Maddie's cousin used him for her divorce last year and said he was tough but fair. He's older than I expected, with gray hair and glasses that slide down his nose when he looks at his computer screen. I tell him everything that happened, and he takes notes on a yellow legal pad. He doesn't seem shocked or even surprised. He probably hears stories like this all the time. When I finish talking, he leans back in his chair and asks me what I want out of the divorce. I tell him Rick offered to give me everything if I agree to end it quickly. Cameron raises his eyebrows at that. He says Rick's offer might actually be real if he's desperate enough to avoid a messy public divorce that exposes the affair. He says we should take him up on it before he changes his mind, or his lawyer talks him out of it. He explains that most divorces drag on for months or even years, but if Rick really wants out this fast, we could be done in a few weeks. The thought of being legally free from him, that quickly makes me feel something close to hope for the first time since this nightmare started. Cameron sends a formal letter to Rick's phone that same afternoon. The letter says I'm represented by legal counsel now and all communication has to go through Cameron. No more calls, no more texts, no more showing up at places I might be. Within 2 hours, Cameron gets a call from Rick's lawyer. I'm sitting in his office when his phone rings and I watch his face while he talks. He hangs up and tells me Rick's lawyer wants to schedule a meeting to discuss settlement terms. Cameron says this confirms what he suspected. Rick really does want this over as fast as possible. Probably because he knows how bad it will look if people find out he left his wife for her widowed sister. Probably because he wants to start his new life with Lisa, without me hanging over them like a ghost. Cameron says we have leverage here, and we should use it to get me the best possible deal. He starts making a list of everything I should ask for. The house, the savings account, his retirement fund, everything we built together over 10 years of marriage that he's willing to throw away. The next day, Maddie drives me back to my house to get more of my stuff. We wait until noon because we know Rick will be at work. Walking through the front door feels strange, like I'm trespassing in someone else's home. Everything looks the same, but it all feels different now. Contaminated. Maddie follows me from room to room while I grab clothes and books and random things I can't imagine leaving behind. In the living room, I see something small and gold on the floor near the couch. I bend down to pick it up and my stomach turns. It's Lisa's earring. The one shaped like a tiny heart that Jimmy gave her for their first anniversary. She wore them every day after he died like a way to keep him close. She was wearing them yesterday when she came over crying about her dream. She must have lost it when she was having sex with my husband on my furniture. I run to the bathroom and throw up in the toilet. Maddie finds me there a few minutes later and helps me stand up. She takes the earring from my hand and throws it in the trash. She tells me we're almost done and then we can leave. We're carrying boxes out to Maddie's car when Rick's truck pulls into the driveway. My heart starts racing and I freeze on the front steps. He gets out and walks toward us like he has every right to be here. Like this is still his home. Maddie drops her box on the ground and steps between us before he can get close to me. She tells him I have a lawyer now and he needs to contact Cameron if he wants to talk. Rick looks past her at me and I can see something in his eyes that might be regret or guilt or maybe just discomfort. He says Lisa is already talking about moving in with him. He asks if I'm going to be reasonable about the timeline for the divorce. Reasonable. Like I'm the one being difficult. Like I'm the one who destroyed our marriage. Maddie tells him to leave or she's calling the police. He holds up his hands and backs away toward his truck. Before he leaves, he says one more thing. He asks if I got the test results back. I don't answer him. I just turn around and walk back into the house with Maddie right behind me. That evening, Cameron calls with news. He sounds almost excited on the phone, which seems wrong given the circumstances. He says Rick's guilt is making him offer me the house, his entire retirement account, and most of the savings if I agree to a quick divorce. It's way more than I would get if we went to court and fought over everything. Cameron says I should take the deal before Rick comes to his senses. But something about accepting it makes me feel sick. Like I'm letting him off easy for what he did to me. Like I'm saying it's okay to destroy someone's life as long as you pay them enough money afterward. Cameron must hear the hesitation in my voice because he starts explaining the practical side. He says this settlement would set me up financially for years. I could finish school, start over somewhere new, build a life that doesn't include Rick or Lisa or my mother. He says revenge might feel good, but security feels better in the long run. I tell him I need time to think about it. He says I have 48 hours before Rick's lawyer wants an answer. The next morning, Maddie drives me to another office across town. This one belongs to Victoria Morrow, a therapist Maddie found through some online reviews. Victoria's office is small and painted light blue with plants on every surface. She has kind eyes and a soft voice that makes me want to cry before she even asks me anything. I sit on her couch and tell her everything. About my husband and my sister and my mother all working together to destroy my marriage. About how I feel like my entire life was a lie. About how I don't know who to trust anymore when the 3 people who were supposed to love me most all betrayed me. I cry through most of the session, and Victoria just sits there listening and handing me tissues from a box on the table. When I finally stop talking, she asks me what I want to do about Rick's settlement offer. I tell her it feels like letting him win. She leans forward in her chair and says something that shifts everything in my brain. She says taking the settlement isn't about letting him off easy. It's about securing my financial future so I can build a life without him. She says the best revenge isn't making him suffer. It's living well enough that he becomes irrelevant to my happiness. I sit with those words for a long time after I leave her office. I spend the rest of that week thinking about what Cameron and Victoria both said to me. The settlement really is good, and fighting Rick in court would drain me in every way possible. Maddie keeps telling me to take the money and run, but part of me still feels like I'm letting him buy his way out of what he did to me. On Thursday morning, my phone rings with a number I don't recognize. I almost don't answer it, but something makes me pick up. It's my father, and his voice sounds different from I've ever heard it before. He tells me he just found out about everything because my mother finally told him after I left. He says he had no idea Lisa and Rick were having an affair, or that my mother knew about it and kept it from me. He sounds angry in a way that scares me a little because my father never gets angry. He asks where I am, and if I'm safe, and if I need anything at all. I start crying again because this is the first time since everything happened that someone from my family has actually asked if I'm okay. He tells me he's coming to see me and that he wants to help however he can. We talk for almost an hour, and he keeps apologizing for not knowing sooner. He says if he had known, he would have stopped it, or at least warned me. I believe him because my father has never lied to me in my entire life. When we hang up, I feel something I haven't felt in days. Not happiness exactly, but maybe just a little bit less alone. The next day, Cameron calls again and says Rick's lawyer is pushing for an answer on the settlement. I tell Cameron I'll take it because I need to move forward with my life, and fighting would just keep me stuck in this nightmare. Cameron sounds relieved and says he'll draw up the papers. 3 days later, I'm sitting in Cameron's office signing document after document that officially end my marriage. My hand shakes while I write my name over and over. Cameron tells me Rick already signed his copies and that his lawyer delivered them this morning. I ask Cameron if Rick said anything, and Cameron shakes his head. He tells me Rick just signed everything and left without a word. Within a week, the legal part is done and my 10-year marriage is officially ending. It feels surreal to think that a decade of my life can be reduced to a stack of papers in a manila folder. I'm back at Maddie's apartment when I get a text from a number I don't have saved. The message says it's Thomas, and he wants to talk to me if I'm willing. Thomas is Rick's older brother, and we've always gotten along pretty well. I haven't heard from him since everything happened, and I'm surprised he's reaching out now. I tell him he can call me, and my phone rings 2 minutes later. Thomas sounds uncomfortable, but he starts talking anyway. He tells me he's sorry for what Rick did, and that he tried to talk Rick out of it when he first found out about the affair. He says Rick wouldn't listen, and kept insisting that he and Lisa were meant to be together. Then Thomas tells me something that makes me feel a tiny bit better, even though I know I shouldn't. He says Rick and Lisa are already fighting all the time, because being together isn't what they thought it would be. Thomas says they built up this fantasy in their heads during the affair, but the reality is completely different. He tells me Lisa gets jealous whenever Rick talks to any other woman, and Rick is already getting annoyed with how demanding she is. Thomas says Rick mentioned to him that I never acted that way, and he's starting to realize what he gave up. I don't know what to say to that, so I just thank Thomas for calling and telling me. After we hang up, I sit there thinking about how Rick and Lisa are already miserable together. It should make me happy, but instead, it just makes me feel empty. The following week, I start the process of moving back into the house. Rick agreed to move out immediately as part of the settlement, so the house is legally mine now. Maddie takes time off work to help me, and we spend 3 days cleaning out everything that reminds me of Rick. We pack up his clothes and his books and his stupid golf clubs that he never actually used. Maddie's friend has a fire pit in her backyard, and we drag the couch from my living room out there one night. The couch where I found Rick and Lisa together. We pour lighter fluid on it and Maddie hands me the matches. I light the whole book on fire and throw it onto the couch. We stand there watching it burn and Maddie opens 2 beers. She hands me one and we drink while the couch turns to ash. It feels good to destroy something after feeling so destroyed myself. By the end of the week, the house looks completely different. Maddie helped me rearrange all the furniture and we painted the living room a light gray color that I picked out. We hung new curtains and bought new throw pillows and got rid of every single picture that had Rick in it. Walking through my house now almost feels like walking through a stranger's home, but at least it doesn't remind me of him anymore. I'm in the kitchen making coffee when someone knocks on my front door. I open it and my mother is standing there with a casserole dish in her hands. She tries to walk inside, but I block the doorway. She tells me she wants to talk and that we need to work this out because we're family. I tell her she chose Lisa over me when she kept the affair secret and she needs to leave. She starts crying and saying she was just trying to keep the peace between her daughters. I tell her there is no peace and there never will be. She says Lisa is family and family should stick together no matter what. I feel rage building up in my chest and I tell her she's right that family should stick together, which is exactly why she should have told me what was happening instead of helping Lisa destroy my marriage. She reaches for my arm, but I pull away. I tell her she needs to leave my property right now or I'm calling the police. She looks shocked, like she can't believe I would actually do that. She sets the casserole dish down on my front step and walks back to her car. I watch her drive away, and then I pick up the casserole and throw it in the trash without even looking at what's inside. That afternoon, I get an email notification on my phone. It's from Lisa, and the subject line says we need to talk. I almost delete it without reading, but curiosity gets the better of me. The email is long and goes on for paragraphs about how she and Rick have a deep spiritual connection that I couldn't possibly understand. She writes that they bonded over grief and loss, and that Rick helped her heal from Jimmy's death in ways no one else could. She says I should understand because I once loved Rick too, and I should want him to be happy. She actually writes that she hopes one day I can forgive her, and we can be sisters again. The whole thing makes me want to throw my phone across the room. I forward the email to Maddie without responding to Lisa. Maddie calls me 10 minutes later, and we spend an hour laughing bitterly at how Lisa managed to make herself the victim in all of this. Maddie reads parts of the email out loud in a mocking voice, and it feels good to laugh even though nothing about this situation is actually funny. A few weeks after the divorce is finalized, I walk into the community college registration office with a folder full of paperwork. The woman behind the desk looks bored until I tell her I dropped out 10 years ago to support my husband's career, and now I want to finish my degree. She perks up and starts typing on her computer, pulling up my old transcripts and telling me I only need 30 more credits for my associate degree. I sign up for 3 classes that semester and walk out feeling like I'm finally doing something for myself, instead of sacrificing everything for a marriage that meant nothing. The first day of class, I sit in the back row of Introduction to Business Management and realize I'm the oldest person in the room by at least 5 years. The professor starts talking about goal setting, and I write down every word because this is my second chance and I'm not going to waste it. 2 months into the semester, Maddie calls me while I'm studying for a midterm. She sounds weird and asks if I'm sitting down. I tell her I'm always sitting down lately because I'm either in class or doing homework. She says she ran into Rick's brother Thomas at the grocery store and he told her that Rick and Lisa broke up. I stop writing mid-sentence and ask her to repeat that. She says they only lasted 8 months together before everything fell apart, because they couldn't handle the guilt and the judgment from everyone who knew what they did. Thomas told her that Rick tried to reach out to me through him, but Maddie already knows what I told Thomas when he asked. I have zero interest in hearing anything Rick has to say about anything ever again. Maddie asks if I'm okay, and I realize I don't feel much of anything hearing this news. Part of me thought they would stay together forever, just to prove that destroying my marriage was worth it. Now they couldn't even make it a year. I tell Maddie I need to get back to studying and we hang up. I stare at my textbook for a while thinking about how Rick and Lisa are probably both miserable now, and how that should make me happy, but it just makes me feel empty. The rest of that semester, I throw myself into my classes and end up getting straight A's. My father takes me out to dinner to celebrate and tells me how proud he is that I'm building a new life. He mentions that he and my mother are definitely getting divorced because he can't forgive her for enabling Lisa's affair and keeping it secret from me. I feel guilty that my parents' marriage is ending because of what happened to me, but my father says some betrayals are too big to move past. Over the next year and a half, I take more classes and work part-time at a bookstore near campus. The work is easy, and my coworkers are college kids who don't know anything about my past. I like being anonymous there. I like that nobody looks at me with pity or whispers about what my sister did. Thomas texts me occasionally to check in, and one day he mentions that Rick is dating someone new. He says Rick seems to have finally accepted that we're never getting back together. I read the message twice and wait for some kind of emotional reaction, but nothing comes. No anger, no jealousy, no sadness. Just complete indifference to what Rick does with his life now. I text Thomas back thanking him for letting me know, and then I delete the message thread. 2 years after the divorce, I walk across the stage at the community college graduation ceremony in a cap and gown. My father and Maddie are in the audience cheering louder than anyone else when they call my name. After the ceremony, we go out for lunch and Maddie gives me a card with a gift certificate for new work clothes. My father hands me an envelope with a check inside to help me start my career. I cry a little because this is my family now. Not Rick, not Lisa, not my mother. Just the people who stuck by me when everything fell apart. My life is smaller than the family I thought I had, but it's real and supportive and genuine. I start applying for jobs in my field and land an entry-level position at a marketing firm 3 weeks after graduation. The pay isn't great, but it's a start, and I'm building something that's mine. I'm in a good place now with my degree and a career path I'm actually excited about. I still see Victoria every other week for therapy because the betrayal changed me in ways I'm still working through. I have trust issues that pop up at weird times. I second-guess people's intentions. I keep walls up that probably shouldn't be there anymore. But I survived the worst thing I could imagine happening to me, and I came out stronger on the other side. Some days I still think about that night when I walked into my living room and saw Rick and Lisa on my couch. The image is burned into my brain forever. But now when I think about it, I don't feel the same crushing pain I used to feel. Now I just feel grateful that I found out who they really were before I wasted any more years of my life on people who didn't value me.